says it's 5 o'clock. I think it's a minute before, but that's okay. Last week we read this section on Latu Maharaj that was titled Desires and Sense Objects. Today we're going to read on overcoming discouragement, but before we start there, it's on page 109. I'd like to read the paragraph right before because it's really important, I think. The nature of the mind can be changed by chanting the name of the Lord. Gradually desires and doubts cease, and the mind dissolves into its causality. Then there is none to think or imagine. Waves of desire in the mind show that the mind is active. The mind becomes pure only when it becomes waveless. The power of God descends on the pure mind, and only then does one realize the self. I think I was rereading this a couple of times, and I think that's a really important concept to get. Okay, so we're going to read on overcoming discouragement. I'm sure none of you have ever been discouraged. A devotee. Maharaj, is there any hope for liberation for worldly people like us? Please bless us that we can escape this whirlpool of Maya. Latu Maharaj. Why should you be so depressed? Do you think you understand everything about human life? Know that no life goes in vain in God's realm. Once Brother Shashi gave a very apt illustration to someone like you. A man was walking and came upon a canal. Seeing that he would have to jump over it in order to continue on his way, he took several strides backward to get a running start for his leap. As he ran forward and jumped over the canal, he covered not only the distance he had moved backward, but also the canal itself. Now, can you tell me whether his several steps backward were helpful or harmful? A man might have to take backward steps in this present life, but he will undoubtedly run forward in the next. No life is ever lived in vain. Remember only one thing: lead a God-centered life. Then the Lord will guide you as he likes. He knows our past, present, and future. The wisest course is to surrender to him completely. Whether you hold onto the Lord's hand or not does not matter. He is always holding yours. There's no doubt about that. He will never abandon you. He is all-merciful. Remorse and God's forgiveness. A devotee did something wrong and was feeling very bad about it. When Latu Maharaj heard this, he called for the devotee to come to see him. He told the devotee, "Look here, my son, just because you have made one or two mistakes, you should not give up your spiritual practices and brood over your lapses and feel helpless. To make mistakes is human. Call on God. He will give you the strength to overcome weakness and destroy your delusion. He is the compassionate one. However great your sins might be, the current of his mercy will not be kept from you. How little is your sin, and yet you are so depressed. Just think of Ajamila and Valmiki. Compared to their sins, yours are nothing." Now I'm going to read you the footnote because some of you may not be familiar with the story of Ajamila. It's told in the Bhagavatam, he committed many sins in his life. He had a son whose name was Narayana, a name that is also an epithet of Vishnu, the supreme God. On his deathbed, Ajamila was loudly calling for his son, Narayana, and as a result, the messenger of God came and took him to heaven. All his sins were destroyed through the repetition of the Lord's name. And Valmiki is the author of the Ramayana. he had previously been a highway robber, but his whole life was changed by the influence of the sage Narada, and he became a saint. So there is absolutely no failure in religious life. Do you know what Brother Vivekananda used to say? Don't worry about a little spot of ink on the body. It is nothing. If one bathes in God's infinite ocean of mercy, the stains of 1,000 ink spots will be washed away. So I'm telling you, do not grieve. Pray unceasingly. Your bad tendencies will go away in a short time. Yet the devotee was so ashamed of his conduct that he could not raise his head. Seeing this, Latu Maharaj said, before he commits a sin, a man's conscience fills him with shame, yet he brushes it aside. But divine law is such that after the sin is committed, shame overwhelms him again, and he cannot raise his head in front of others. Even these words could not shake the devotee free from his sense of guilt. Latu Maharaj continued, "What are you ashamed of, my son? The Lord has seen everything you've done. You cannot hide anything from him. Since he knows all of it, why should you still be so melancholy? Instead, engage yourself in harder spiritual disciplines. Keep the company of holy men and come here now and then." These words helped the devotee regain his mental strength. After his conversation with Latu Maharaj, he began to practice spiritual disciplines more vigorously. On monastic life, Latu Maharaj said to a monk, "Never forget the goal of monastic life. Don't wear the Garawa cloth, this color of orange, for outward show. The Garawa cloth may bring you name and fame, but it will not help you realize God. Go into solitude and practice your spiritual disciplines with all your heart. Only then will you progress quickly. Avoid gossip and politics." Is it so easy to be a monk? A real monk longs for God, weeps for God. He does not think about himself and is not disturbed by physical discomfort. A real monk will not see faults in others, and he will have neither attachment nor aversion for anyone. He should be friendly with all. A real monk must try to ease the sufferings of others, and if he does not have the means, he should encourage them with inspired words so that they can fight against life's odds. He does not hoard for the future and seeks nothing except God. A real monk is free from fear and is straightforward. His behavior is simple like a child's. Wherever he goes, he hears the call of God. Well, we're all working on it, right? Cruelty and compassion. A devotee, Maharaj, where is compassion in this world? There seems to be only an unbroken chain of cruelty. The crow attacks the sparrow, the kite attracts the crow, man hunts the kite, and the tiger and the bear attack man. I had a friend who watched David Attenborough's Story of Nature, and after streaming it, came up with the conclusion that everyone is eating everyone else. So that's what Latu Maharaj finds too. If you see cruelty around you, responds Latu Maharaj, you will find cruelty in God. If you see compassion everywhere, you will witness his infinite compassion. It all depends on your own mind. Remember that to the pure mind, all things are pure. That's one to think about. This is also very much in keeping with the tantric realization that everything we see, everything that Vedanta says appears in Maya is actually the Lord appearing in various shapes and forms. So we try to see God in everything we see every day. On miracles, a young man. Maharaj, could you teach me something so that I will no longer suffer from poverty? Latu Maharaj, you won't like what I tell you. You want the sort of trick that one uses to make gold out of a handful of dust, but I don't know that trick. I am a monk. I stay in this place and chant the name of the Lord. I can tell you something about God and spiritual life, but you won't be satisfied. You want miraculous powers. All are powers so easy to come by? Are you ready to exert yourself? If you can chant the Lord's name 100,000 times a day, then come and sit here. After hearing these words, the young man hurried away. Sri Ramakrishna as an exemplar. Sri Ramakrishna embodies an ideal for everyone. He was an ideal householder, an ideal monk, an ideal guru, and an ideal disciple. Moreover, his mind can serve as an example for all faiths and all sects. He is an ideal for the worshippers of Shakti, as he practiced and attained perfection in all the important tantric sadhanas. He is an ideal for the Vaishnavites, for his devotion to Hari is unparalleled. He is also an ideal for the Shaivites, as he attained the vision of Lord Shiva too. He is an ideal for the devotees of Ramchandra, for he saw Rama and Sita. He is an ideal for the Vedantins as well, having experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the culmination of the Vedantic sadhana within 3 days. He is also an ideal for the Christians and Mohammedans, because he had the vision of Christ and also the prophet. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings on suffering. A devotee. Maharaj, why should a knower of Brahman, like Sri Ramakrishna, who was almost always immersed in samadhi, have suffered from such a terrible disease? Now, we all know he suffered from throat cancer, and that was what the physical reason he left the body. Latu Maharaj, what do I know about that? I heard Master Mahashai M. say, it is because of the touch of impure people that he suffered so terribly. Girish Babu used to say, it is his divine play, a way to relieve the sufferings of mankind. Ram Babu said, if the Master had not suffered from such a terrible disease, who could have recognized him? When one is in good health, one can easily fix the mind on God. But he is surely an avatar who can be continually in Nirvikalpa Samadhi even when he is sick. Brother Lauren said at that time, that's Swamiji, he wants to be served by us, so he has contracted this disease. Don't worry. Could we have such a priceless opportunity to serve him if he didn't have this disease? We must not miss this opportunity. Let us serve him in such a way that he will not have the heart to leave us. Brother Rakal said, the Master is testing us. Now these are all Ramakrishna's direct disciples. Brother Sharat said, although we may or may not understand it, a great mission is beginning through the Master's illness. Brother Shashi said, sweet Jesus allowed himself to be crucified for humanity's sake. Our Master, too, is suffering excruciating pain in order to remove man's burden of sin. Balaram Babu once said to the Master, Sir, I'm tired of hearing people's critical remarks about your illness. They say, your Master is suffering from disease. The Master answered, listen, He who forbears survives and becomes great. Many people held different opinions about his illness. I don't remember them all. The Master used to say, let the body and the disease take care of each other, O mind. O mind, be happy. He felt no pain. I saw that he was floating in bliss. If he had really suffered, could he have given us such joy? He told us, Brahman is stainless. Though the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, are in Brahman, he is separate from them, as the air carries odors, but still remains different from and untouched by them. Brahman is existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. In Brahman, there is no sorrow or pain, no disease or death, no decay or growth. I see everything within this. Sri Ramakrishna pointed to himself. Brahman and the one who is within the heart are the same. Where is the suffering of one who, though sick, can maintain such a high level of spirituality? You people identify yourselves with the body, so when the body suffers, you are frightened. On the truth of Brahman. It's kind of like our whole society as we think of so many ways to preserve the body instead of work on the mind and our spirit. On the truth of Brahman. Bihari Lal Sakar. Maharaj, the scriptures say that Brahman is seated in the heart of man. What does that mean? Latu Maharaj. It is just a figure of speech. Words cannot really encompass the truth of Brahman, although the scriptures have tried to describe it in that way. Brahman is everywhere. There is no in or out, high or low, east or west with him. He is one, inherent in everything. He is all-pervading, limitless, eternal. Various attempts have been made to describe Brahman, but what is beyond thought cannot really be expressed in language. He is in everything, and again is beyond everything. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, everything has been defiled by the lips of man except the truth of Brahman. Bihari Babu. Maharaj, you monks are inscrutable. Instead of making positive statements, you speak only in vague terms. Another devotee. Maharaj, please tell us what you have understood of this truth. Latu Maharaj. You see, this realization cannot be expressed. One uses language to express an idea, but so far no adequate language has been discovered for talking about Brahman. The Master used to say, my boys, I would like to tell you many things, but the Divine Mother presses my lips, as it were, and does not allow me to talk. You speak thousands of words every day. Have you ever thought about where these words come from? The devotee. They must come from the mind. Latu Maharaj. You can say then from which part of the mind they come and in what form. And then, where is the mind itself? The devotee could not reply. Bihari Babu ventured, there is a neural connection between the brain and the tongue, so the mind must be in the brain. Latu Maharaj. In what form? Bihari Babu. As vibration. Latu Maharaj. Now tell me whether that vibration is continuous or whether it stops and starts. Bihari Babu was surprised. Maharaj, I haven't thought about it. Latu Maharaj. Please think it over. Bihari Babu. Perhaps it stops and then starts again, exciting the nerves of the brain and bringing out the response. Latu Maharaj. If the vibration does stop, can you tell me what makes it start again, especially in the case where there is no external stimulus? Bihari Babu. No, Maharaj, we really can't say. Latu Maharaj. So you see, you can express these things up to a point, but no further. After some time, both Bihari Babu and the other devotees saluted Latu Maharaj and took leave of him. As they were approaching their carriage, Bihari Babu said, "I have never heard such words before. This unlettered monk has thought over even such subtle things as these. It is really amazing. We are proud of our scholarship, but in reality, he is more learned than we are." This was the difference between uneducated and intelligent. In our Western society, we so often measure intelligence by education. And as these two men decided, he's more learned than they are. He's thought these things over. But that's how the seers realized Brahman. Okay, next section is Maya and freedom. Bihari Lal Sakar. Maharaj, we read in the scriptures that God is man's inner guide. If that is true, then why does man suffer so much? How can one who is guided by the ever-pure Chetanananda get involved in evil actions? Latu Maharaj, you have answered your own question. The essential nature of man, which is ever pure, cannot be polluted by good and evil. Bihari Babu, then do you mean that man has two natures, one affected by good and evil and the other not? Or are you saying that good and evil do not really exist? Latu Maharaj, let me explain. Sri Ramakrishna said, good and evil exist, and they are also non-existent. As long as God keeps the sense of ego in a man, he will perceive duality, good and evil. When God takes away the sense of ego, the perception of duality, good and evil, disappears. So long as a man is subject to the law of karma, he is aware of good and evil. When, through God's grace, a man is released from the bonds of karma, the man's awareness of good and evil also goes. For good and evil are the fruits of karma. As you sow, so you will reap. It is the Lord who established this law of karma for the benefit of the world and mankind. Divine providence has given man the sense of free will and the principle of karma. It is left to man to do as he wishes. If he chooses to do actions which bring him less happiness and more misery, he alone is responsible, not God. Bihari Babu, but Maharaj, the scriptures say that God is guiding man, so the responsibility is God's, not ours. Latu Maharaj, yes, the scriptures are right. It is the responsibility of the operator, not the instrument. But tell me, who is guiding the individual soul who is bound by Maya? Maya herself is acting as the operator. Do you know the nature of Maya's game? She loves to play and wants to play also. She also enjoys ups and downs, pleasure and pain, creation and destruction. She loves to raise waves of desire in the mind and does not like to still them. But God takes charge of the soul when it is not bound by Maya. When God guides a man, an uninterrupted current of happiness, peace, and bliss flows in his mind, and no other waves of thought can be raised there. He becomes one with that unfathomable, waveless ocean of Satchidananda. Bihari Babu. Yes, Maharaj. I know the scriptures have compared Brahman with the ocean and Maya with the waves on its surface. And Now let me ask, what is the difference between the waves and the ocean when both are water? In that case, wouldn't being guided by Maya and being guided by God be the same? Latu Maharaj, yes, from one point of view they are the same, but there is another point of view too. The master used to say, the waves belong to the ocean, but no one can say that the ocean belongs to the waves. Similarly, Maya belongs to God, but Maya is not God. So you cannot say that being guided by Maya is the same as being guided by God. Nevertheless, the ultimate purpose of Maya's guidance is certainly to take the individual soul to God. Bihari Babu, but everybody says that Maya deludes the individual soul and leads him astray. Latu, Maya wants to play constantly. Because Maya's play goes on and on, man cannot see where he is being taken on his journey. So he thinks Maya is taking him in the wrong direction. But look, how can she misdirect us? Isn't God everywhere? Maya has become manifest by God's will, and she is working for him. Bihari Babu, what? Maya is working for God? Latu Maharaj, yes. What other motive can she have? Bihari Babu, but the scriptures describe Maya as illusory and world bewitching. She makes the unreal appear to be real, and her main concern is the delusion of mankind. Latu, do you know why people say so? The scriptures speak harshly against Maya because she has qualified the unqualified Brahman. And there is another reason. God alone is real. Maya, by comparison, is unreal, illusory. But Maya is unreal only in relation to God. From man's standpoint, Maya is avidya, ignorance, which is neither real nor unreal. If you watch Maya carefully, you will see that she is pushing man toward God step by step. With one hand, she is deluding man, and with the other, she is unveiling consciousness before him. She works in a balanced way, without any motive of her own. She balances both happiness and misery, both goodness and evil. Do you know the intention behind all this? To teach us. If Maya's purpose were to lead man astray, she would show us only one aspect, not both. But because Maya shows us two aspects, she simultaneously deludes and enlightens. True, she causes man much trouble, and her path is very roundabout and time-consuming, but eventually it will lead one to God. After you suffer repeated blows and much torment in this world, and come to understand Maya's ways, Maya will not be able to hold you anymore. Then you will be released by her sattvic power. That is why she is called the one who makes the impossible possible. And I think we'll stop there because Maya is a very complicated concept. But when you think about what Latu has said, it's in a very, very simple form. The pairs of opposite are what teaches to move forward and make choices. So, now, let's see. Okay, some announcements. Last week we had Swami Abhutananda talking about God's love. This Sunday we'll have Krishna Prana talking about for the love of God. Seems like we're repeating lectures right now. Saturday, I see your icons. I don't see a person, but that's okay. So, hi, Ava. I say we're going to try and call tomorrow. Okay, so we'll end with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat, Sri Ramakrishna Panamastu.